Maybe this is just me, but sequels usually build upon the previous game's foundation, adding new features and improvements. So what went wrong with Mega Man X6? Let's do a quick summary of the key features and improvements that carried over to X6. X1 is the foundation, and a lot is thrown at you. You play as X, learning the basic game mechanics, movement, jumping, lemons. You also learn about hazards. Spikes, holes, and being crushed equal bad. Later on, you're introduced to Zero, and defeating bosses affects the terrain of other bosses' stages. Now, X2 adds new features, one of them being optional bosses, a new mechanic called the Air Dash, and the Giga Crush is created. There are some other cool things like Neo Jumps, but we won't get into Neo Jumps. I'll make a video later on in depth on that. X3 is where things really start to change. Zero becomes a playable character who wields a saber, the Z Saber, but Zero is made of glass and only has one life.
Takes him all the way down to 1 HP.
X4 adds Zero as a completely playable character. Yes, it's so good. Which is no longer made of glass, and creates a happy accident that is completely overpowered, which is called Slash Dash Cancel. X can now hover, and gets the Nova Strike ability. Optional bosses are no longer optional, and game overs now allow continues at certain checkpoints. X5 carries over the completed 4th armor from X4, but nerfed. Reploids are now rescuable, which give you a life. And Sigma is now physical malware. RNG can ruin your Zero playthrough, and Zero also becomes malware. Also, they added in a requirement of all 4 capsules for X to equip any of the armors. This is where X5 completely loses me. They decided to replace previous features with drawbacks. It's safe to say X5 was the beginning of the end. And this sets the tone for X6. Capcom really knew how to get me excited for X6. If X5 could have a nightmare, X6 would be that nightmare. X6 continues the great trajectory of X5 but propels it to the next level and beyond. At least the name is accurate, because this game feels like a nightmare.
Wow, that was lucky.
At least the opening song is amazing. I will say, the amazing music is a common theme throughout X6, but that is the only praise I will give X6. Let's dive into the nightmare system more in depth. There are the physical nightmares, which corrupt Reploids, and then there is a fever dream called the Nightmare Phenomenon. The rescuable Reploids now hold sweet power-ups. Too bad they get banished from existence by said nightmares.
Oh, that thing's gonna go corrupt then.
The Nightmare Phenomenon is similar to how in X1 defeating certain bosses positively impacts the terrain of other boss stages.
Place gets frozen once you beat Chill Penguin.
Except, plot twist, the Nightmare Phenomenon negatively impacts the stages. What a genius idea! Just to clarify, you now get punished for fighting bosses in certain orders. Adding insult to injury, the Nightmare Phenomenon is required for some collectibles. Let's move on to RNG. X6 does a disservice to RNG. In general, RNG is a good idea. It allows for interesting interactions, funny moments, replayability, etc. But it is implemented very poorly in X6. Barring off collectibles of RNG, another genius idea. Really, who the hell thought this teleporting totem nonsense was a good idea? Barring off damage with RNG, another complete gem of an idea. You know what is another gem? Dead ends. I mean encouraged exploration. X6 likes to encourage the player to backtrack and explore. Or maybe they call it replayability. Anyways, exploration is nothing new to the X series. But they really encourage you. Nothing spells encouragement like an impassable wall of spikes, am I right?
I instantly go into spikes.
There's also another dead end, the leap of faith, aka you picked the wrong armor.
Yeah, you're talking about like Jumper. Yeah, I don't think I could even jump sideways off of that to make it there. I don't think there's any way I can do that.
The shadow armor makes the insanely tedious final bosses less tedious.
Wow. That is so easy.
And you're also immune to the wall of spikes. Going by this logic, you would think this is the correct choice. But nope, sorry. Thinking is the wrong answer. Please try again.
Yeah, there's no way you can make that. Like, what? Even if you did like a perfect jump. Because you have to get like right on the edge. There's no way. There's no way.
To be fair, the leap of faith can be passed. It just requires this trick. But let's be real, the majority of us are game overing and coming back with the blade armor. Because who the hell would even realize that was an option? Guess what going back to the stage select means? Fighting high max all over again. Speaking of high max, let's get into bosses. Putting it plainly, the 8 general bosses are a complete joke. All besides this boss. But after enough attempts, something will click and you'll be on your way to the final bosses.
Yeah, okay, that boss is pretty hard.
The final bosses are something else though. If you want to understand the definition of tedious, battle any of the final bosses.
Ooh.
You will not be disappointed, but at the same time, you will be disappointed.
Why did they make all the boss fights so tedious? I don't understand this. Like, why? Like, I don't mind like dodging attacks, but this is just... Like, what is this? He's not even using a ball right now. There we go.
I do not understand why they designed all these fights with a similar stalling mechanic.
This fight is taking so long that the music restarted.
Surprisingly, the final boss Sigma isn't tedious. Which sounds strange. You would think the final boss would be the most tedious of all.
Oh, we almost got him.
And you would be correct, normally. Except we're talking about X6, and thoughts just like testing weren't a requirement. You made it to the end. Show some love by giving this video a like, comment, or share it with someone who may enjoy it. My final verdict is...
What am I fighting?